A vast alien fleet appeared in the skies above Earth, its ships black and menacing. The ships were massive, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight as they hovered over the planet. The Calic, a powerful and ruthless alien warrior, stood at the helm of the lead ship. His eyes scanned the planet below with an air of arrogance. To him, Earth seemed like any other world in the galaxy, weak, small, and ripe for the taking. Calic had heard rumors about Earth. They spoke of Deathworlders, planets so harsh and dangerous that only the strongest creatures could survive. The aliens had laughed at these stories. How could a tiny planet like Earth pose any real threat to them? The Calic's fleet had easily conquered hundreds of worlds, and Earth would be no different. Calic ordered the fleet to descend, his warriors, brave and battle-tested, prepared for the assault. They were ready to claim the planet in the name of the alien empire. The fleet landed on Earth's surface, and the soldiers marched out, confident in their superiority. They didn't expect much resistance, after all. How could the weak humans of Earth stand up to their advanced technology and vast power? As the alien warriors stepped onto the Earth, something felt off. The air smelled different, strange, and wild. The ground beneath their boots was rough, covered in rugged terrain that felt alien to them. They had expected cities, neat roads, and buildings. Instead, they were met with vast open spaces filled with forests, deserts, and mountains. The land seemed untouched by civilization, yet there was an undeniable sense of power in the air. One of the warriors, a young soldier named Vec, glanced around nervously. He had been part of many invasions before, but something about this planet made him uneasy. It wasn't just the wilderness, it was the feeling that this place had a life of its own, one that could fight back. Focus, Vec, Calic's voice boomed. Over the comms, we are warriors, not children. The humans are weak. We will crush them, and this world will be ours. Vec nodded but couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The alien warriors marched forward, weapons at the ready. They advanced into the heart of the wilderness. Where they expected to find the first sign of human resistance, they didn't have to wait long. Out of the trees ahead, a group of humans emerged, carrying makeshift weapons like sticks and rocks. Their eyes were filled with fear, but there was something else, something Calic couldn't quite place. Despite their lack of advanced weaponry, these humans stood tall. Unafraid of the massive alien warriors in front of them, the humans shouted and charged forward, their faces determined. Calic's warriors raised their guns, ready to fire, but something unexpected happened. Instead of running, the humans rushed at them with wild courage. The alien warriors fired, but the humans dodged and weaved, their bodies moving with surprising agility. The ground beneath them seemed to give them an edge, as if they knew the land better than the aliens ever could. The humans fought back with everything they had, using the environment to their advantage. They knew this world. They knew how to move through it, how to blend with the land. Calic was stunned. These were not the weak, helpless creatures he had expected. Why are they fighting so hard? Vec asked, his voice shaky. They are fighting for their world, Calic answered, his voice calm but with a hint of concern. Do not underestimate them. The alien warriors advanced with more caution now, realizing that the humans were not as helpless as they had thought. They had heard of the Deathworlders, but they had never truly understood what that meant. Earth was a world of survival, where life and death were in constant struggle. The humans had learned to live with the land, to adapt and fight back when necessary. Calic watched as the humans continued to resist, using everything they had to slow the advance of the alien force. There was no fear in their eyes, only the fierce will to protect their home. He realized, for the first time, that Earth was not like any other planet they had conquered. One of the human fighters, a young man named Alex, rushed forward, swinging a heavy piece of wood at an alien warrior. The alien swung its weapon, but Alex ducked, rolling behind a large rock for cover. Calic watched as Alex used his surroundings to his advantage, setting up traps and attacking with precision. The alien warriors had been trained in warfare, but they were unprepared for this kind of fight. This is no ordinary world, Calic muttered. These humans are stronger than we thought. The battle raged on, and the alien warriors began to feel the weight of their mistakes. They had underestimated the humans, And now they were paying the price. The humans fought back not just with their weapons, but with their hearts. Calic began to understand that they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their very existence. As the sun began to set, the alien warriors fell back. Regrouping at the edge of a dense forest, the humans had made it clear this would not be an easy conquest. Calic stood tall, staring at the battlefield. He could feel the sting of his pride, but he also felt something else: respect. He had never encountered anything like this before. He had faced countless enemies, but none had fought with the kind of determination and spirit the humans had shown today. "This is not over," Calic said, his voice steady. "Prepare for the next assault." But in his mind, Calic knew one thing. For certain, Earth was not the weak, defenseless planet they had thought it was. This death world had already begun to change the way they viewed the galaxy. And the alien warriors would soon learn that Earth was not a world to be conquered, it was a world to be respected. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the battlefield where alien warriors stood. Regrouping after the first intense clash with the humans, Calic, the alien leader, paced back and forth, his mind racing. He had seen many battles in his life, but nothing like this. The humans, though outmatched in terms of technology and weapons, fought with an intensity that shocked him. They had no fear, no hesitation. They fought like they were protecting something far more important than just their homes. They were defending their entire way of life. As Calic's warriors gathered in their camp, they exchanged uneasy looks. They had expected the humans to crumble in the face of their might. Instead, they had encountered a fierce resistance. Some of Calic's warriors were wounded, their confidence shaken. They had underestimated the strength of these earthlings. "This is impossible," one of the warriors, a large, muscular alien named Vorn, said in disbelief. "How can they be so strong? We've conquered countless worlds, but these humans, they fight as if they have nothing to lose." Calic stopped pacing and turned to Vorn, his face serious. "They are fighting for something more than themselves. They are fighting for their home, their survival. That is a force we have not yet reckoned with." Despite his words, Calic couldn't help but feel a growing sense of respect for the humans. He had never witnessed such determination in an enemy. These humans, with their simple tools and their ragged clothing, were not just fighting with weapons. They were fighting with everything they had. As the aliens rested, preparing for another attack, a small group of human soldiers gathered in a hidden location deep in the forest. They had been part of the resistance against the alien invaders and were determined to protect their planet. Among them was Alex, the young man who had fought so fiercely earlier in the day. His heart still raced from the battle, but his mind was focused on what was coming next. "We can't keep running forever," Alex said to the others, his voice firm. "We've done what we can to slow them down, but we need to make a stand." The other soldiers nodded, their faces grim. They were all tired, their bodies bruised and battered. But they knew the fight was far from over. The aliens had only just begun their assault, and they had to do everything they could to stop them. If they failed, Earth would fall, and Alex couldn't let that happen. One of the soldiers, a woman named Mia, stepped forward. "What can we do? We don't have the weapons to fight them head-on. Our only hope is to use the land, the environment around us. We know this world better than they do." Alex thought for a moment, his mind working quickly. "You're right. The land is our ally. We've lived here for generations, surviving the harshest conditions. They may have technology, but we have the land and we know how to use it." The soldiers nodded in agreement. They weren't fighters by profession, but they had grown up on Earth, a planet where survival was never guaranteed. They were not soldiers by trade, but they were warriors by necessity. Their strength lay in their ability to adapt, to learn quickly, and to fight with every ounce of their being. Over the next few hours, the soldiers worked together, planning their next move. They gathered materials from the land, using the trees, rocks, and the wilderness to create traps and makeshift weapons. It wasn't much, but it was enough. They had learned that the key to fighting the aliens wasn't in trying to match their firepower. It was in using the environment to their advantage. As night fell, they set their traps and waited. The alien forces, unaware of the humans' plans, moved forward again, ready to launch their next wave of destruction. They believed that they had the upper hand, that victory was assured. But they were wrong. The humans, hidden in the shadows of the forest, watched as the alien forces marched. Toward them, Alex felt a sense of calm wash over him. He knew that this moment would decide everything. If they could succeed here, they might have a chance to turn the tide of the war. The first wave of aliens entered the trap zone. The humans activated their traps, causing loud, unexpected noises and explosions that startled the alien soldiers. It was chaos. The alien warriors, unprepared for the sudden attack, stumbled back in confusion. They were used to facing well-organized forces, not disorganized. Chaos, but the humans were not afraid. They fought back with what they had: sticks, rocks, and the weapons they had managed to scavenge. Vorn, one of Calic's best warriors, found himself caught in one of the traps. A net made of thick vines and ropes quickly ensnared him, pulling him to the ground. He struggled to break free, but it was no use. The humans were smarter than he had given them credit for. He had underestimated them. He had underestimated Earth. Calic's soldiers continued to advance, but the humans' traps kept them off balance. For every alien warrior that charged forward, 2 more were caught or delayed by the traps. The humans had turned the very land against them, using everything at their disposal. It wasn't a fight they could win with brute force alone. It was a fight that required wit, strategy, and the willingness to use every advantage. As the battle raged on, Calic watched from a distance, his heart pounding in his chest. He had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving, using the land itself to push back the alien invaders. They were no longer just weak creatures to be crushed, they were formidable opponents, fighting with every ounce of their strength. The battle continued through the night, with both sides taking heavy losses. But the humans, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, held their ground. They had proven one thing: Earth was not a planet that could be easily conquered. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Calic stood silent, watching the humans from afar. He could feel the weight of his decision. He had underestimated them, and now they had made him question everything he had believed about Earth. These humans were not weak, they were strong, stronger than any enemy he had ever faced. The battle was not over, but Calic knew one thing for sure: the fight for Earth would be far harder than he had ever imagined, and in that moment, he realized that maybe, just maybe, this death world wasn't something to be feared, it was something to be respected. As the first light of dawn pierced the sky, Calic stood on the edge of the alien encampment, staring out across the battlefield. The humans had put up a fight the night before, far more intense than he had ever expected. It was clear that the war for Earth would not be won easily. His warriors were regrouping, but their morale was lower than ever. The traps set by the humans had caught many of them off guard, and they had lost several key soldiers in the chaos. Calic clenched his fists, his anger rising. They were used to fighting enemies that cowered before them, but these humans, these fragile creatures, had shown something no one had expected. They were fighters. Vorn, the big warrior who had been caught in the net, limped over to Calic, his face bruised and battered from the battle. "Commander, we are underestimating them," he said, his voice gruff. "These humans do not fight like any enemy we've faced before. They are willing to die for this world." Calic nodded, his gaze focused on the horizon. "I see that now, but we cannot lose here. We must win." The alien fleet, once proud and powerful, was now beginning to feel the weight of the battle. The humans, though vastly outnumbered, were fighting with a strength that Calic had never witnessed before. The land, the very soil of Earth, seemed to be on their side. It wasn't just the terrain, they knew it was the fire inside them. The need to survive, to protect, was stronger than anything Calic had ever faced. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Calic gave the order for another assault. This time, they would push forward with everything they had. They would not be stopped by primitive traps or unexpected resistance. The alien warriors were equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. It was time to show the humans what true power looked like. but the humans were ready. The soldiers, battered from the night's fight, had been preparing for the next wave. Alex, Mia, and the others had seen the aliens regrouping and knew that this was it, the final stand. They couldn't afford to lose. If they did, Earth would fall, and the fight would be over. They had one chance to push back, remember. Alex said to the group, "We fight for our homes. We fight for our families. We are not just fighting to survive anymore. We are fighting to protect everything we have left." The humans gathered their remaining resources, makeshift weapons, rifles, and explosives, and set up their positions. They had learned to use the land to their advantage, turning the forest and the mountains into a maze that the alien invaders couldn't navigate easily. This was their home, and they would fight for it until the end. As the alien forces advanced, the humans launched their attack. The battle that followed was intense. The aliens pushed forward with heavy artillery, blasting the trees and rocks that had once hidden the humans. But the humans were not only using weapons, they were using their environment. They knew every tree, every rock, every path. They knew how to disappear into the shadows and strike when the enemy least expected it. Mia, with her sharp eyes, spotted a group of aliens trying to flank their position. She signaled to Alex, who gave a quick nod. In a swift move, the humans set off a series of explosions, causing the ground to shake and forcing the aliens to fall back. The trap had worked, but the aliens were not so easily deterred. Calic, leading the charge, ordered a full-scale attack, and this time they weren't holding back. The aliens used their advanced weapons to clear the forest, hoping to flush out the humans hiding among the trees. But no matter how much they advanced, they couldn't break the human defense. Alex and his team had been forced to move deeper into the forest, staying hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They knew that they had one advantage: the terrain. The alien warriors, despite their superior technology, were not used to fighting in a wilderness like this. The humans, on the other hand, had lived their entire lives in places like this. They knew how to move quickly, how to stay out of sight, and how to set traps. It wasn't just a battle of weapons anymore, it was a battle of will. And right now, the humans had the upper hand. As the aliens pushed deeper into the forest, Calic's warriors started to grow frustrated. They had been fighting for hours, and they still hadn't managed to wipe out the human resistance. Some of the aliens were beginning to question their commander's ability to lead them to victory. Calic, however, remained calm, his focus unshaken. He knew that they had the firepower to win. They just needed to break the human spirit, but the humans wouldn't break. "Hold your ground," Alex shouted to his team as they fired from their hidden positions. "We can do this. We're not giving up." In the heat of the battle, Calic's eyes locked onto Alex's position. He could see the human leader, standing tall despite the chaos around him. Calic was impressed. This young man was no ordinary soldier. There was something in his eyes of determination, a fire that made him stand out from the rest of the humans. For a moment, Calic hesitated. He had faced countless enemies in his life, but never had he encountered one like this. He had always won. The Calic's forces had always been victorious, but now, for the first time in his life, he wasn't so sure. The battle continued for hours, each side refusing to give in. The alien warriors were relentless, but the humans fought with everything they had. Every time it seemed like the aliens would break through, the humans would regroup and counterattack. They were tired, but they weren't ready to give up. By midday, the battlefield had become a war zone, with bodies of fallen soldiers littering the ground. The aliens, despite their advanced technology and superior firepower, were being pushed back. Calic knew that they could not keep up this assault for much longer. His warriors were growing weary, and the humans were proving to be much more formidable than they had first appeared. In that moment, Calic realized that this was no ordinary world. Earth was a death world, but it was a world that fought for its survival. And the humans, the so-called weak species, had shown that they could stand against the might of an entire fleet. Calic took a deep breath and made a decision. The humans had earned his respect, but the war was far from over. He would not let them win so easily. "We regroup," Calic ordered, his voice cold but steady. Prepare for the next stage of the battle. This is not finished yet. But even as the aliens pulled back, Calic couldn't shake the feeling that the humans had already won something far more important. They had shown him that Earth was a force to be reckoned with, and no matter how many battles they fought, the spirit of humanity would not be so easily crushed. Calic watched as his warriors began to fall back, their heads down in defeat. The humans, though tired and outnumbered, had pushed them to the limit. What had started as a simple invasion had turned into something more. The alien commanders' confidence, once unshakable, was now wavering. Earth had shown him a side of warfare he had never seen before. In the midst of the alien retreat, Alex stood at the edge of the forest, his eyes scanning the battlefield. His heart was heavy, knowing that while they had succeeded in this skirmish, the war was far from over. The aliens were powerful. Their technology advanced beyond anything Earth had ever known. But the humans had something they couldn't match: an unbreakable will to survive. "We can't let them regroup," Alex said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion in his body. He turned to his team. "If we give them a chance to plan, they'll come back stronger. We need to keep pushing." The humans had taken their first major victory, but it had come at a great cost. Their numbers were dwindling, and their weapons were running low. They needed a plan, something to hold the line and give them a chance to keep fighting. Mia, who had been by Alex's side through most of the battle, stepped forward. "We can't keep fighting like this forever. We need a way to turn the tide. Something that will give us an advantage." Alex thought for a moment. "We've been fighting on our terms, using the environment to slow them down. But maybe it's time we take the fight to them." The human soldiers gathered, forming a circle around Alex as he shared his plan. He knew it would be risky, but at this point, they had no choice. If they didn't take the initiative, the aliens would come back stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Calic stood in the command tent, his mind racing. The retreat had not gone as planned. His fleet had been slowed down by the human resistance, and their numbers were beginning to dwindle. It was the first time he had faced a prolonged conflict like this, and it unsettled him. He had always believed that the advanced technology of the Calic fleet would be enough to crush any opponent, but these humans, with their primitive weapons and limited resources, were proving otherwise. "Commander, the humans are regrouping," Vorn reported, his voice tinged with concern. "They're not backing down." Calic's eyes narrowed. "I know. They've shown us a side of themselves we didn't expect. But we can't allow them to keep fighting like this. They're dangerous." He stood up, his hands clenched into fists. "Prepare the troops. We'll hit them with everything we've got. This ends now." The alien warriors, though weary, obeyed their commander's orders. The Calic fleet was massive, their ships armed with weapons that could decimate entire cities. But they had learned that even the mightiest weapon could be defeated by the will of those who fought for their home. As the alien fleet readied itself for another assault, the humans continued their preparations. Alex's plan was simple, but it relied on one thing: the element of surprise. They would lure the aliens into a trap, a final stand where they could strike back with everything they had. The first part of the plan involved drawing the aliens deeper into the heart of the forest. Alex had gathered a small team of soldiers to set up the traps they had used in previous skirmishes. This time, however, they wouldn't just be aiming to slow the aliens down, they would be aiming to cause as much damage as possible. While the rest of the soldiers set up their positions, Alex and Mia moved through the trees, keeping an eye on the approaching alien forces. They knew the battle would soon begin, and they had to make sure everything was in place before the aliens arrived. "Do you think it will work?" Mia asked, her voice quiet as she surveyed the area. Alex gave her a small smile. "I'm not sure, but it's the only chance we've got." Meanwhile, Calic's forces marched forward, their weapons raised and ready for action. They were determined to crush the humans once and for all. They had underestimated Earth before, but this time they wouldn't make that mistake again. As the alien warriors pushed forward, Alex signaled his team. The first trap was triggered, sending a loud crash through the forest. The aliens, caught off guard, paused in confusion. But it was only the beginning. The humans had set up a series of explosions. carefully placed to create chaos and confusion among the aliens. As the blast echoed through the trees, the Calic warriors were forced to take cover. Their advanced technology could detect the source of the explosions, but it was too late. The humans had already moved. Alex and his team emerged from the shadows, attacking with everything they had. The aliens, once again caught off guard, stumbled back. The human soldiers used their environment to their advantage, launching attacks from hidden positions and creating diversions that forced the Calic warriors to split up. For a brief moment, it seemed like the humans were gaining the upper hand. The alien warriors struggled to regroup, their superior firepower now useless in the dense forest. Alex and his team moved quickly, striking at the aliens with precision. It wasn't just the weapons they used, it was their knowledge of the land, their connection to Earth that gave them the advantage. Calic, watching from a distance, realized that the humans were no longer just defending their world, they were attacking with purpose. The humans had become something more than mere survivors. They had become true warriors, and Calic felt the weight of their spirit bearing down on him. This is not just a fight for survival, Calic muttered to himself. This is a fight for everything they hold dear. The battle continued, and the humans fought with everything they had. They had no choice. If they didn't win this fight, Earth would fall. But Calic began to realize that even if the humans lost, they had already won something much more important. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not a world to be taken lightly. It was a world that could fight, and a world that could win. As the battle raged on, Calic's warriors began to falter. They were not used to facing an enemy that fought with such passion, such fierce determination. The humans had shown them the power of Earth, its strength, its resilience, its will to survive. Calic's mind raced. The battle was far from over, but something inside him told him that this fight was one that would change everything. And no matter what happened next, Earth would never be the same. The battle had been raging for hours, and yet the alien warriors showed no signs of retreating. Calic's fleet had regrouped after the initial human counterattack, but the humans were relentless. They fought with everything they had, pushing back against the alien invaders with a strength that surprised even the most experienced of Calic's soldiers. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Calic stood at the edge of his command tent, watching his warriors prepare for the next wave. His mind was clouded with uncertainty. The humans had proven themselves to be much more than he had anticipated. They were not the weak, helpless creatures he had expected to find. They were fierce, determined, and most importantly unwilling to give up. Commander, Vorn said, stepping up beside Calic. The humans, they are unlike anything we have faced before. They refuse to break. Calic nodded, his eyes narrowing as he watched the humans regroup in the distance. Their spirit was undeniable, and it was something that Calic had come to respect. Even as an enemy, these humans were fighting for their world, and they had shown him that Earth was not a planet to be underestimated. They fight with the strength of their ancestors, Calic muttered. We have underestimated them from the start. Vorn looked up at his commander, a questioning look in his eyes. What should we do next? Calic turned to face him. We push forward, full force. But this time, we do not underestimate their ability to adapt. We will need to use everything we have. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Alex and his team were making their own preparations. The humans had suffered heavy losses, but they had also gained ground. They had turned the environment into an ally, using the forests and mountains to create traps and distractions that kept the aliens off balance. But now, with the alien forces regrouping, they knew that they had to take bold action. We can't keep running forever, Alex said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion he felt. We need to push them back, not just slow them down. Mia, who had fought alongside Alex throughout the battle, looked up at him. What's the plan? Alex took a deep breath. We've been using the land to our advantage, but we need to take the fight to them. It's time to go on the offensive. The plan was risky, but they had no choice. The alien forces were regrouping and preparing for another full-scale assault. If the humans did not strike now, they would be overrun. But Alex had a vision, one that he hoped would turn the tide of the war. Here's what we'll do, Alex said. gathering his team around him. We'll draw them into a trap, make them believe they've got us cornered. Once they're close enough, we'll hit them with everything we've got. Mia nodded, her eyes filled with determination. It's a gamble, but it's our best shot. Alex turned to the others. We'll split into two groups. One group will provide the distraction, while the other sets the trap. We move fast. We move together. We can't afford to fail. As the humans prepared for their bold move, Calic's fleet began to advance once more. The alien warriors, now more focused than ever, moved forward with the intent to crush the human resistance once and for all. Their weapons were ready, their spirits unshaken by the losses they had suffered in previous clashes. This time, they would not be caught off guard. But Alex and his team had already put their plan into motion. As the alien forces pushed deeper into the forest, the humans launched their diversion. Explosions rocked the ground, sending trees crashing to the ground and creating thick clouds of smoke. The aliens, once again, were caught by surprise. They had expected the humans to retreat, but instead, they were met with chaos. Calic's warriors hesitated for a moment, unsure of what was happening. It was exactly what the humans had hoped for. In that brief moment of confusion, Alex's team moved into position. They had set up a series of explosives in key locations, and now it was time to set them off. The trap was sprung. The explosion sent shock waves through the alien forces, knocking them off balance and forcing them to scatter. The humans, with their knowledge of the land and their carefully laid plan, took advantage of the confusion. They attacked with everything they had, using rifles, explosives, and even hand-to-hand combat to fight back. Calic, realizing that his forces were once again in disarray, ordered a retreat. But it was too late. The humans had gained the upper hand, and they were not about to let it slip away. Alex, his heart pounding, watched as the alien warriors began to fall back. His team had done it. They had succeeded in taking the fight to the aliens. But it wasn't over yet. The Calic fleet was still a formidable force, and they would not retreat easily. But for the first time since the invasion began, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. The aliens were not invincible. The humans had shown them that they could fight back and win. We did it, Mia said, a smile spreading across her face. We actually did it, Alex nodded. But his eyes remained focused on the battlefield. This isn't over. We still have a lot of work to do. As the alien forces began to regroup, Calic knew that the humans had changed the course of the battle. They had proven that they could adapt, that they could fight on their terms. And for the first time, Calic began to question whether the Calic fleet could win this war. The humans had shown them that Earth was not a world to be conquered. It was a world to be respected. Calic stood silently, watching the humans on the battlefield. He had seen many things in his life, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their very way of life. And in that moment, Calic realized something he had never considered before. This battle was not just about victory. It was about something far greater, the spirit of Earth and its people. The Calic fleet may have been powerful, but they had underestimated the power of the humans will to survive. The alien forces were regrouping in the heart of the forest, but the mood was different now. Calic, the leader of the invaders, could feel the change in the air. His warriors had been forced to retreat, not by advanced weaponry or superior technology, but by the sheer will of the humans and their connection to the land they were fighting for. Calic stood tall, his eyes scanning the battlefield from the top of a hill, watching as his soldiers gathered. Their faces were tense, their pride shattered. They had expected to easily crush the humans, but instead, they had been pushed back. The humans, despite their limited resources, had shown a strength and resilience that Calic had never encountered before. Commander, Vorn said, walking up to Calic. What do we do now? Calic's gaze did not shift from the battlefield. He was thinking, his mind racing. He had underestimated the humans. Their ability to adapt, to fight back with such intensity, had taken him by surprise. But there was something else the way they fought. It wasn't just about survival. It was about their world, their homes, their future. Calic had seen many species fight for their lives. But the humans fought with something deeper, something that made them more dangerous than any enemy he had faced. "We continue the assault," Calic said, his voice steady. But there was an edge to it. He knew this was not just another battle. It was something more. "But we need to change our strategy. The humans are not like the others. They are not afraid of us. They have something that drives them." Vorn nodded, understanding the weight of Calic's words. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" Calic paused for a moment, his mind still processing the situation. "We have to break their spirit. Once we do that, they will fall. They are strong, yes, but they are not invincible. If we show them that we will never stop, that we are relentless, they will surrender." But deep down, Calic knew that breaking the human spirit would not be as easy as he made it sound. There was something in the way they fought, something in their eyes that told him they would not back down, no matter how hard the fight became. Meanwhile, Alex and his team were preparing for the next phase of their fight. The humans had managed to push back the alien forces, but they knew the enemy would return. Calic and his fleet were far from defeated. They had advanced technology and an overwhelming number of soldiers. The humans had no choice but to keep fighting. "We've done well," Alex said, looking around at his fellow soldiers. "But we can't afford to rest. The aliens will come back stronger." Mia, who had been by Alex's side since the beginning of the conflict, nodded. "We've shown them that Earth isn't an easy target, but they're not going to stop. We need to stay one step ahead." The human soldiers had learned from every encounter with the aliens. They had used their environment to their advantage, striking when the enemy least expected it. But now, the battle had taken on a new meaning. It was no longer just about surviving. It was about proving to the aliens and to the galaxy that humanity could stand on its own. That Earth was a force to be reckoned with. "We'll make our stand here," Alex said. "We'll fight for every inch of ground. If they want Earth, they're going to have to earn it." The soldiers gathered together, ready for the next wave of the fight. They had no illusions about what was ahead of them. The aliens were powerful, but the humans had something the aliens didn't, an unbreakable bond with their world. The humans knew Earth like no one else could, and they would use that knowledge to their advantage. As the aliens prepared for their next assault, the humans did the same. Calic's fleet had regrouped, their forces strengthened by reinforcements. But the mood among the alien warriors had changed. They had once thought of Earth as an easy conquest, but now they were unsure. The humans were proving to be a far more formidable enemy than they had expected. "We are ready to move forward, Commander," one of Calic's officers said, his voice hesitant. "But the humans, they don't break. Every time we push them back, they come right back at us." Calic turned to face his officer, his expression hard. "I know, but we will push them harder. They will fall. The galaxy belongs to us." But even as he said the words, Calic felt a lingering doubt in the pit of his stomach. He had led countless successful campaigns, crushing worlds and civilizations without hesitation. But Earth was different. The humans were different. They had fought with a strength that Calic could not ignore. Their will to survive, their desire to protect their world, had made them powerful in ways Calic had not anticipated. And as the battle continued, Calic found himself questioning whether victory would come so easily after all. The humans, too, were preparing. They knew that the next assault would be their hardest. The aliens were regrouping, and they had learned from every mistake they had made. Alex and his team had fought hard, but they could not fight forever. They had to make the next strike count. "They'll come for us soon," Mia said, her voice calm but firm. "We need to be ready," Alex nodded. "We are ready. We've faced worse, and we've won." As the alien forces moved toward their final assault, Alex's words echoed in his mind. The battle for Earth was far from over, but he had seen something in the aliens' eyes that gave him hope. Calic and his warriors were not the invincible conquerors they had thought themselves to be. They were starting to fear the humans, and fear, Alex knew, was the beginning of the end. When the first shots rang out, the humans were ready. They fought with everything they had, pushing back the alien invaders once more. The aliens, though powerful, were starting to feel the weight of the human resistance. They had underestimated Earth. They had underestimated humanity. As the battle raged on, Calic's mind raced. He had never encountered an enemy like this, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure whether he would win. The humans' resolve had shaken the aliens, and in that moment, Calic realized something he had never considered before. Earth was not a world to be conquered, it was a world to be respected.